Good evening. You're watching NTV Weekend Edition. My name is Olive Burrows and here are the headlines.
Tonight, the nurses' strike starts tomorrow. Union rejects invitation to hold talks with conciliator. Also tonight, the killer concoction at Musalia Mudavadi's property was considered medicinal. The pain of families left vulnerable. Mildred Odira is still missing. Did the taxi driver really drop her at hospital?
If he checked in at 4:30 and left at 4:50, within these 20 minutes, what was he waiting for?
Plus, the snakes of Kerio Valley are still killing and maiming amid insufficient anti-venom in the country. Our special feature, Baringo Venom.
NTV Weekend Edition with Olive Burrows.
Thank you for making the time to join us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa. Now, unfortunately, we start on a tragic note. A swimming spree turned tragic as 3 siblings drowned at a dugger piece of land at minor slums in Nyahururu. The 3 children, twin boys and another brother, had gone for a swim this evening when tragedy struck. The open hole is at the Nyahururu Golf Club and was the space where soil was dug up for road construction. According to the residents in the area, the boys had been warned on the dangers of swimming at the quarry. Officers from the Nyahururu police station have been at the scene where search and rescue efforts have been ongoing. So far, only 2 bodies have been retrieved, while the search for the 3rd boy is still ongoing. It portends to be a difficult experience for patients in public hospitals in 11 counties from tomorrow. The Nurses Union has rejected government's efforts to negotiate a way out of the impending strike that is set to begin tomorrow. The Ministry of Labour, through a conciliation committee, extended an invite to the Nurses Union for a meeting tomorrow, but KNUN says the meeting is too late to avert the strike. They are demanding that both the county and national governments fully implement the return to work formula signed in 2017. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports on the latest round of labour battles between the government and nurses.
1 year after the nurses ended one of the longest strikes in the country's recent history, the nurses are gearing to make good their promise to down their tools again starting Monday.
I have no powers to call off any strike.
1 year after the nurses ended one of the longest strikes in the country's recent history, the nurses are gearing to make good their promise to down their tools again starting Monday. The nurses' impending industrial action stemming from what they term as non-compliance with the return to work formula that was signed on the 2nd of November 2017, the same formula that ended their 5-month-long strike then. In that agreement, the Council of Governors and the national government had agreed to an increase in allowances paid to the nurses, one of the issues that had led to the 2017 strike. The nurses across the counties were awarded a uniform allowance of 15,000 shillings with an addition of 5,000 each financial year to make it a total of 25,000 shillings by 2021. In the same breath, the nurses were to get a nursing allowance of 23,000 shillings with a staggered increment each financial year to rest at 30,000 by 2021.
Money was factored in the budget, but somebody's running rings around to ensure that that money goes to other projects.
The nurses now say they are yet to receive these allowances and their 1-year wait has now come to an end. Starting Monday, the 4th of February, nurses from West Pokot, Kisumu, Nairobi, Kisii, Taita Taveta, Nyandarua, Trans Nzoia, Elgeyo Marakwet, Wajir, Nyeri and Kitui counties will not report to work. The second batch of counties to join the strike will be Kiambu, Homa Bay and Marsabit. These counties will go on strike on the 6th of this month. On the 11th, Kwale, Garissa, Samburu, Kirinyaga and Embu will join their colleagues. If their grievances will not have been addressed by the 18th of this month, Murang'a, Busia, Nakuru and Siaya counties will join the strike, bringing to 24 the number of counties affected. A conciliation committee appointed by the Ministry of Labour to address the nurses' issue has scheduled a meeting with the nurses' representatives tomorrow, but the nurses say they will not heed to that invitation. The nurses' union insists that nothing short of the full implementation of the 2017 return to work formula will see them stay at work. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
The family of Edmond Agesa Omega, one of the 3 men who died at a construction site affiliated to Musalia Mudavadi, are calling on well-wishers to help them foot the burial expenses as well as upkeep for his wife and 3 children. Police are on their part going on with investigations, even as those who survived after taking the drink record statements. The post-mortem is set for tomorrow, even as the families await a report from the government chemist on the contents of the killer drink.
Family and friends of the late Edmond Agesa Omega assembled at his rental house in Ngong's Bulbul area for briefs on what befell their loved one. His wife vividly recollects her last conversation with him before he left for work on the fateful day.
Alisema tu anaenda kuna kazi amepata kando, akimaliza hii anaenda kupiga na chakula jioni. Ampata kazi nyingine ya kando hii. Afika saa 10:11 naona akuji. Nikajaribu kumpigia simu. Nikapata ni mteja. Nikatext aingi. Nikasema labda maybe amechelewa kwa jam ile kupanda gari. Tukamwa tu nikakaa baka asubuhi. Ndio sasa kuja kuniambia hebu kuja usikize hii mambo yenye naambiwa kwa simu. Ndio akasema tu wamesikika tu kuna dawa wamepika wamekunywa na imewaharibikia.
She tells us the concoction is not a new thing to Omega and his colleagues. For the more than 2 years, he had been working as a cleaner in Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi's compound.
Hizi dawa si zile za kawaida za kienyeji, na si mara yake ya kwanza kukunywa dawa. Ni mara kadhaa huwa nakunywa tu kila wakati.
Sina survivors wale walikuwa na tumeongea nao na wakatuelezea ukweli kwamba walichemsha dawa wakiwa wote pamoja na wakakunywa, na ni dawa huwa wanakunywa kila wakati.
Edmond Agesa Omega passed on his way to St. Odilia's dispensary here in Karen. His colleagues made it to hospital, but 2 more passed on while undergoing treatment. This man is one of the 5 who survived after taking what was believed to be a medicinal drink. Though he declined to speak to the media, he, another survivor and families of the deceased recorded statements with the police.
Moja hizo dawa ni aloe vera. Nitasikia daktari wakati alipopima kakuta wale survivors wanasema ile kiti iliyokuwa mbaya zaidi ni kama hiyo aloe vera walikunywa haikuwa nzuri. Wakati napochemsha inakuwa kama sumu.
The police say they will hand over the bodies to their kin after postmortem set for tomorrow Monday 4th of January. The government chemist is also yet to release the results from the tests on the killer concoction.
Nataka nijue tu vile watoto ni 3. Ningetaka kujua tu vile anaweza saidika kusoma. Sababu huyu mdogo ni mgonjwa na bado hajapona vizuri. Alipasuliwa. Ndio alikuwa amesema this month anampeleka afanywe check up.
Edmond's family is planning to bury him at their farm in Bungoma. Daniel Mule, NTV.
Mildred Odira fell sick on Monday night, and in the wee hours of Tuesday, she took a taxi to a hospital in Kasarani. Unfortunately, she has not been seen since. The family of the Nation Media Group employee is holding on to hope as the police continue with the search, which has so far seen the taxi driver arrested. Sharon Baranga reports.
Family and friends continue to gather at Mildred Odira's house in Nairobi's Kariobangi South Estate. They come together in sorrow, fear and hope. Hope that their missing kin who went missing 6 days ago will be found safe. Many of them last saw her on Sunday during a birthday party. On Monday, Mildred was feeling unwell and went to hospital.
On Monday, I called her again to confirm if she went to the hospital. Then she told me she went. That was SOS.
Despite having gone back home, she did not feel better. And in the early hours of Tuesday, she got worse. The security guard at her estate called a taxi belonging to a man who did not live too far from her place to take her to hospital. He was to rush her to Ruaraka Neema Hospital, which he says he did. However, details were not adding up.
They went. Now, when they went, they called me. Ma'am, we are here in hospital, and there's no record here that Mildred was brought here.
The driver allegedly drove into the compound and shortly after left, with details of his presence there not tallying.
Tukachukua barua kwa police, tukaenda naye hospital. Sasa kufungua hiyo CCTV, tukaona hiyo gari iliingia at 4:33, ikustop, iliingia ikaenda town na ikatoka. Hakuna mtu alitoka kwa gari, na ameinsist alimwacha hospital. Sasa vile walienda nao wakakuta hakuna mtu alidrop. Sasa amenyamaza, sasa aongi.
Police arrested the taxi driver and have been probing him. The family is appealing to anyone who has seen Mildred, an employee at Nation Media Group, to report to the nearest police station. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Here's hoping that Mildred will make it back home safely. It is a shame of darkness sitting in the spaces where the light should dwell. The voices meant to be drawing people to the light, instead wooing them into the dark, intimate corners of sin. Men who are entrusted as shepherds and expected to feed the flock, but instead feed on the flock. Ministers of the gospel who have been exposed as being predators of young, vulnerable girls. Now, Pastor Ken Gomeri, a popular preacher in the high school Christian ministry circles, has been linked to sexual misgivings, heightening concern on the safety of the youth. NTV's Charity Mwangi spoke to a youth pastor who shed some light on the reasons why such cases have become more prevalent.
Beat after beat, they appeal to their audiences. But bit by bit, some are getting into spaces their messages speak against. Some ministers of the gospel are moving from appealing to appalling. Men are standing in the dock in the court of public opinion as they face accusation of sexual indecency, which is aggravated by the standard they are to live against based on their calling.
Preaching.
Pastor Luke Odhiambo, the youth pastor at African Inland Church Milimani, says that among the broader issues is one of integrity of morals.
There are times that when you saw a man, you are seeing a dad. When you saw a man, you see your brother, your uncle. But now you see a man and you see a person who is actually hungry to have sex with you.
Daudi Kabaka, alias DK Kwenye Beat, was allegedly hospitalized in a battle with heightened blood pressure. But not even images of him on a hospital bed will stop the lashing tongues and fiery keyboards. As the whirlwind is still spinning around DK and fellow artist Hope Kid the General, on Saturday a lady accused Pastor Ken Gomeri, popular for his outreach in high schools, for having acted inappropriately with her and her friends in 2016. Pastor Gomeri is accused of having lured the girls to a hotel room in Nyeri, trying to make sexual advances through the night, regardless of their explicit rejection of his sexual advances. Pastor Odhiambo says that in some cases, the girls who are raising the accusation on social media may not entirely be innocent on the matter.
The girls should also monitor the behavior, the talks, the gestures of the people who come close to them. I think it is a matter of identifying yourself with a celeb. And that's, I think, where we began from. They are also seeing potential boyfriends.
Pastor Odhiambo, who heads the discipleship program at St. George's Secondary School in Nairobi, says that there is a lack of accountability from the young men and women who are in ministry, as a number of them are not answerable to any institution or higher authority.
Because youth ministry, as I will always say it doesn't need a special kind of techniques. It just needs a special kind of understanding. And that understanding comes with knowledge, it comes with skill, and it comes with character.
The vulnerability of the youth around the praying preachers can partly be attributed to their lack of knowledge in matters of faith. And so Pastor Odhiambo advises the youth to invest in the knowledge of the Word of God instead of depending on wolves in sheep's clothing. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Share your thoughts on that story and the others we've aired using the @NTVKenya hashtag and the @NTVKenya handle. The hashtag, I apologize, is NTV Weekend Edition. My handle is @OBurrows. Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet has cautioned drivers to adhere to road safety regulations and ensure their vehicles are in good condition to avoid cases of road carnage. Boynet urged the public not to be ignorant about their safety and report cases of recklessness. He was speaking during the requiem mass of the 11 people who perished in a grisly road accident on Monday night at HZ KO South along the Eldoret-Eldama Ravine Road. The 11 deceased include 2 assistant chiefs. There have been calls to rein in rogue and reckless drivers as well as tame the corruption on the roads, which has cost the country many innocent lives.
If you're a driver, before you get your hands on behind the wheels of that motor vehicle, hakikisha kwamba wewe mwenyewe you are in the right frame of mind. Usiingie kwa gari kama wewe mwenyewe unajishuku. Pili, kabla hujashika hiyo gari, hakikisha hiyo gari is in the right condition.
Police have seized over 3 million Kenya shillings worth of bang in Emali, Makueni County after it was found stuffed in a saloon car. The consignment was discovered along with a mobile phone in an abandoned Toyota Corolla that had been ditched on the side of the highway. This was after the car was flagged down by traffic police and the driver chose to speed off. Police, who believe the bang was being taken to Mombasa, have launched a manhunt for 3 suspects who were in the car and fled. Time now for a break. We'll be back before you know it.
Weekend Edition with Olive Burrows.
We did promise to be back before you knew it. In Baringo North's scenic Kerio Valley lie deadly snakes drawn out of their hiding places by the dry spell. As if dealing with water shortage is not bad enough, the residents live in fear of the serpents that have made life a mixture of deaths, amputations, and the concoction of emotions that come with them. Every other day, such cases are reported to the medical personnel who make frantic efforts to save survivors. Some succumb to their injuries while others end up having their limbs amputated. The effort to prevent deaths from snake bites in this area are stung by the realities of insufficient anti-venom at the medical facilities, plus victims' failure to seek treatment in good time because of poor infrastructure. Rose Wangwoi takes us into the poisonous and fear-ridden reality of residents in Kerio Valley in tonight's special feature, Baringo Venom.
Seven-year-old Chepchirchir Kiplagat should be in school, but a snake bite 3 years ago left her paralyzed. Unlike other children of her age, Chepchirchir looks weak and uncoordinated. The bubbly girl cannot walk, talk, hear, or do anything independently. Chepchirchir and her 2-year-old sister Skola were asleep at their home in Emosos village, Mogotio, when a black mamba slowly slithered into their bed.
Mama kasikia mtoto yake huyo mdogo, huyo Skola amerushwa jini na kujua ni nini. Sasa kushika mtoto yake akaenda kwa brata yangu mdogo, kupiga huko. Sasa wakaangalia mtoto alikuwa anafikiria ni kama amepatwa na baridi. Wakaangalia huyu mtoto anasiti, anatapika. Huyo mama sasa akakimbia kwa majirani kuomba pesa. Kupiga huko sasa akaona mtoto anazungusha mkono hivi, anarusha mkono yake. Sasa wao watu wakaangalia hiyo mkono, akaona kuna kitu ameuma mtoto. Sasa wengine wakarudi kuangalia nyumba. Kupiga sasa akakuta nyoka anateremka chini kwa kitanda. Anadaramuka chini kwa kitanda. Hata hajafika chini yote. Najua ilikuwa refu. Sasa wakaanza sasa kupikana nduru na kuua hiyo nyoka. Wakati alipoua hiyo nyoka, wakaenda sasa kurudi kuongea vile watapeleka huyu mkubwa. Huyo mwingine sasa tayari amekufa.
Chepchirchir was beaten on the arm and Skola on the face. Skola died before she could get to hospital.
Wakaona huyo mtoto anaenda kukufa. Sasa watu wengine wanakimbia kutafuta pikipiki. Unajua pande huko hakuna gari, ni pikipiki tu, na network tena ni shida.
Chepchirchir was rushed by a motorbike to a hospital 60 kilometers away.
Na hospitali ni Marigat. Wakaanza kupiga njiani hiyo pikipiki haribika tena. Wakaanza kupiga simu kutafuta pikipiki nyingine. Kapiga Marigat kitu kama saa 12 hivi. Wakatibu huyo mtoto.
Anti-venom was unavailable. The panic continued as they traveled to a second and finally a third hospital some 4 hours away. The venom had begun killing tissue and destroying her organs. By the time they reached Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, her head and chest was swollen.
Akakaa mwezi 2 kwa ICU. Sasa pesa ikakuwa mingi, tukakosa namna ya kupata pesa.
She received extensive skin grafting to her left hand. Chepchirchir was discharged after 3 months. Economically, this family was crippled. They are yet to clear a bill of over 800,000 shillings. Her hand contracted backwards and is disformed to this day. A medical report lists a litany of harrowing effects the venom had on her young body, including renal failure, cortical blindness, and limb deformity.
Mtoto hakuwa na shida yoyote, alikuwa anatembea vizuri na alikuwa anaongea vizuri. Amerudi sasa kuwa paralyzed. Sasa aitembei afanye chochote, anafanyishwa hata fasi ya mtoto mdogo. Sababu haezi jua anajisaidia wapi. Hata ameshikwa na kitu kingine kama epilepsy. Anarusha mwili hivi. Kama angekuwa mtu mwenye anatembea, angeanguka chini. Mkono ya right afanyi chochote, mkono ya left anaweza jaribu kufanyia kitu, lakini hiyo ndio mkono yenye nyoka iliuma. Sasa vitole yake imekunjana.
The quiet serenity hanging over Sami Kipsang's home in Kapkoiwa, Baringo North Sub-County masks a painful wound yet to heal 1 year on. For Kipsang, life is no longer the same because the family is no longer complete. This picture is the only memory he has of his 7-year-old son, Nicholas Kipruto, who died on 16th December 2017 after being bitten by a snake. Kipruto was herding the family cattle in a nearby farm when a snake bit him.
Nikasikia nduru, nikakimbia. Kufika pale nikaona mtoto analia. Nikapeleka kukimbisa. Kufika dispensary ya Poi, sikupata dawa. Nikakimbisa kwa bodaboda mpaka Kipsarman Mission Hospital. Roughly 5 kilometers. Kufika pale sikupata dawa. Akapatiwa tu mambo ya painkillers. Mimi hapo mtoto nikaona mtoto amesitiwa sana. Kuna vomit kidogo anashika kichwa, kidogo analia, anashika mala aliuma na nyoka. Nikakimbisha mtoto akapartonjo. Na sasa hiyo nilikuwa nimefunga mala alikuwa mauma na nyoka. Nilikuwa nimefunga mkuu. Pika reception nikapika nduru. Sasa nikaona amesitiwa sana. Daktari wakatoka nje wakanisaidia. Mtoto alikuwa na shida ya kubreathe, kifua imefungana. Wakapatia dawa. At least kakawa fatali kidogo akatabika. Ile kitu ikakuja nje yote, ile ilikuwa imefunga kifua. Na daktari wakang'ang'ana kabisa. Kaumana. Daktari akaniambia akapatie oxygen. Wakajaribu kupatia oxygen kabisa. Wakapatia oxygen mtoto. Bas. Mtoto akanishika. Mtoto akaenda. Bas. Mtoto akaenda. Akafariki namna hiyo.
In Baringo North, nearly everyone has a sad tale to tell. Everyone in the local area knows someone who has been beaten. Poisonous snakes in the area continue to wreak havoc, robbing families of their loved ones after being beaten by the slithering reptiles.
Mtoto yangu aliumwa na nyoka karibu na nyumbani. Kwa mfereji ya maji hapo karibu na gate. Huyo mtoto alifariki immediately saa hiyo.
Hii ni kaburi ya marehemu.
In Kapluk location, Alfred Cherotich is still mourning his younger brother whose life was cut short on December 2018 after being beaten by a black mamba.
Huyu ndugu yangu alikuwa anachunga ng'ombe na walikuwa na wenzake wenye walikuwa anachunga pamoja. Saa kidogo nyoka ikatokea hapo. Ndio hao vijana sasa wakakimbia kuona hiyo ni nyoka gani. Kuona kujaribu kupiga hiyo nyoka sababu hiyo nyoka ilikuwa najaribu kukimbiza hawa. Sasa wengine wakakimbia, huyu naye akakimbia, hiyo nyoka ikarukia yeye. Ikakonga yeye kwa mkuu hapa. Sasa wenzake wakaanza kupiga kelele, mayowe na wakaanza kuua hiyo nyoka. Baada ya hapo huyo jamaa sasa ndugu yangu alikuwa ameanza kutapika. Kwanza hapo wakatafuta bodaboda hapo wakaweka kusema kwamba waache tupeleke karibu na hospitali. Wakatoa hiyo mawe yenye natoanga sumu. Wakafungia kwa mguu na wakaweka yeye kwa bodaboda. Wakalete within 20 minutes kabla hajafika hospitali. Jamaa akakufa.
16-year-old Valerie Chesang had the scare of a lifetime after being beaten by a cobra in 2018.
Nilikuwa nimetoka kwa nyumba, nikafika kwa nje, kutoka nje nikasema acha niingie the other room yetu sasa ya wasichana. Kuingia kumbe hata sikuangalia chini kulikuwa na nini. Kuingia hiyo kitu ikanisaidia asikuwa na shughuli nayo.
But it took her a moment to fully process that she had been beaten.
Nikashangaa kwani nini imezidi tena kwa uchungu. Kuweka stima on, kuangalia, kumbe ilikuwa ni nini, nyoka. Iliuma na ikasunguka kwanza, ilisungusha kwanza kwa mguu. Mimi nikatoanisha mimi silipasi yangu yenyewe na nikachapa.
Unajua sisi hiyo first aid ya nyumbani ni hiyo. Unaweka ndimu pamoja na mafuta taa, ndio sasa itangulie isumu irudishe ikuje nyuma. Kufika dispensary wakasema hakuna dawa. Tukaamua sasa tutafuta watu wa boda. Tukaenda kufika Sarama. Vile wakasema hakuna dawa. Nikashangaa sasa vile nitafanya na mtoto anaendelea kuumia. Tukaamua sasa kuenda Kabartonjo.
Hiyo uchungu yake sasa imenipanda. Imeenda mpaka kwa nini? Kufika kwa Jesa hivi like kufaint.
Chisang was becoming weaker and weaker. She had to be taken to Kabartonjo Sub-County Hospital 50 kilometers away on a motorcycle.
Kufika Kabartonjo ilikuwa karibu saa 4. Msichana ameanza kutapika. So wakashughulika, madaktari wakashughulika. Wakauliza kama tulikuja na nyoka, tukaambia tu kuja na nyoka, tukamwelezea tu. Ni ile inasimama hiyo. Mwili yote ikafura. So alikuwa anamwekea dawa mpaka siku 5 ikaisha.
She was discharged after 2 weeks.
Msichana alikuja kuendelea, mguu ikaanza kutoa usaha. Ikaendelea kuumia tu, alikuwa na dawa yenye alikuwa anatumia. Nikarudisha Kabartonjo sasa. Wakaenda kumuassess, wakasema amepona. Ndio sasa msichana tangu siku hiyo amepona.
Mimi sikuwa yokopa nyoka, lakini tangu hiyo siku hata saa hii kitu kinikusa tu kwa mguu pap naendanga. Most of the people told me that ilikuwa bahati sana kwako, kwa sababu hiyo kama ingekuwa dawa kusaidia na kukimbizwa kwa hospitali haungepata, but that's why I thank God for that one.
For 15-year-old Andrew Rono, part of December holidays was spent in a hospital ward after he was bitten by a snake.
Nilikuwa napanda milima. Sasa kupanda milima wakakutana na nyoka. Kitoko wakasikia kitu ametunga kama sindano kwa mguu. Halafu huyo kijana kuangalia chini, hiyo nyoka alikuwa amepunga mguu. Sasa nyoka anapunga yeye, anaangusha yeye chini. Kijana anaamuka, nyoka alikuwa anataka kushika singo tu peke yake. Kuangalia ameuma kwa mguu. Kupika dispensary Kapsaraman, wakati mimi naenda napikia daktari. Iko tawa akaniambia mulete. Sasa tukapata bahati akatibiwa Kapsaraman. Tukatembea kupika huko kwa Lamu. Kijana anasema niweke chini. Sasa kijana alikuwa amekosa fahamu. Sasa wakati tulipika Kapsaraman, huyu akasaidia haraka. Kama tulikuwa naendelea kwenda Kabartonjo, Mungu ndiye anajua tu. Sasa tukaangalia mtoto mpaka akarudisha fahamu. Saa hiyo hata kijana anasema nilikuwa nimeenda mama.
To the residents of Baringo North, danger lurks everywhere in the form of poisonous serpents. Lucky ones like 17-year-old Ezekiel Sunday have survived a snake bite but lost a limb. A few years ago, Sunday was asleep when he felt a sharp pain in the hand.
Sasa iliingia kwa nyumba, ikaingia ikapanda kitanda. Sasa ile anatafuta maji, akiingia ndani hakuna kitu, hakuna maji, basi ni mtu inatafuta mtu sasa. Hiyo nyoka ilikuwa inaitwa black cobra, ikaniuma katikati ya mkono. Sasa nikaamka, nikasikia mimi nasikia kitu chungu sana. Nyoka ikikuuma inakaa hapo, hawezi enda mahali. Inatoa sauti nyingine kwa nyumba ndani. Ilikuwa na sizzling. Ina sizzling lakini ni kama ya ndege, lakini si ya ndege tena. Inatoa ilikuwa nafanya na ina sizzling. Tukajua sasa ni hiyo. Tuliua hiyo mnyama. Alafu tukachukua huko, alafu wajue ni dawa gani yenye tutaweza, lakini hakupata dawa ya kutosha.
Sunday's father trekked for more than 10 kilometers to get to the nearest health facility, but there was no anti-venom.
Nilitapika saa hiyo, tunaenda kwa njiani wananipepa, hakuna pikipiki.
They were referred to Kambi Samaki Health Center, but nurses could not handle the case. Instead, they referred him to Kabarnet County Hospital.
Wakasema hakuna dawa, ni ngumu sana. Hii mnyama ni mkali sana. Sasa tulipofika huko wakasema muende Nakuru. Tukaenda Nakuru.
Sunday reached Nakuru County Referral Hospital almost 7 hours later. Although he was given first aid, the hand swelled very fast, making him to develop breathing problems.
Ilikuwa uchungu sana. Hiyo ni uchungu, hata hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Mkono ilikuwa imeosa. So, sema hii mkono haiwezi fanya. Imeosa kabisa, imekuwa off. Sasa daktari wakasema lazima tukate hiyo mkono. Sasa tulikaa for 6 months and a half.
When he resumed classes, he had to repeat a class to learn how to write with his left hand, as the other one had been amputated.
I was okay. Nilikuwa sawa, nilikuwa naandika, nilikuwa nafanya maneno ya nilikuwa nasoma. Sasa nilikuwa nacheza mpira. Sasa siku hiyo nilipopata hiyo shida, mambo mengi kakwama, nikahang, hata hakuna kufanya kazi. Kwa handwriting, tuliweza kuongea na walimu, hata kuandika ni ngumu zaidi. Kwa sababu ni kitu yenye hujazoea. Ni uchungu nikiona mtu akitembea anafanya kazi yake, lakini mimi sifanyi chochote. Mimi na hustle, lakini hustle yenye hakuna haifiki mahali.
The same fate befell Jennifer Kimengich. Her left leg was amputated and fitted with a prosthetic leg after she was struck by a puff adder after she accidentally stepped on it.
Nilikuwa naenda kwa jirani yangu tu hapo. Nikikuja nikirudi karibu saa 2. Hiyo nyoka tulikutana naye, nilikanyaga tu. Alafu nauma mimi. Nilisikia tu ni nyoka. Kwa sababu nilisikia sauti yake. Nikawekwa tu dawa ya kienyeji, lakini hakusaidia mimi.
The poor road network saw her get to hospital after several hours. By this time, her leg had started rotting away.
Nikifika hospitali kabisa wala kapasuka kabisa kama bomu. Hii nyama yote iliosa ikatoka. Mpaka mfufa akaonekana. Nililaswa hospitali miaka 1.5. Karibu mimi nakufa kwa hii uchungu yote. Kabarnet nasema hii mkuu ikatwe. Hakuna haja hii uchungu yote mam, kupale sisi nakata hii mkuu. Mimi naambia hata mimi nimeamua. Kazi yoyote ya kufanya mimi siwezi fanya kazi sasa, ni ya shamba na ya nini. Kama hakuna pesa, mimi nakaa namna hii tu. Ngoje Mungu yangu.
Nimeumwa na nyoka mara 2 na ni miguu yote 2. Iliniuma kwa kidole alafu titokezea huko. Ya pili iliniuma huko chini alafu sasa imeharibu hii mguu. Mpaka sasa kwa matiti. Unaona? Ana ameniweka vinonda kwa mwili yangu. Ukiniona sasa huko ndani ni vinonda. Hiyo sumu ikaenda kwa matiti. Hii matiti kafura. Kafura kabisa kiasi. Na hapa nilikaa mwezi 6 bila kutembea. Watoto walikuwa wananisaidia. Sasa nimekaa kama kiwete. Nikisimama kwa maji nusu saa, kesho siondoke. Na hii mguu haina nguvu sasa. Hata ukikata na panga asikii chochote. Mimi nainua tu peke yake. Lakini hata ukidunga kwa shindano asikii. Kuna dawa ninapesanga ndio inatoa uchungu.
We're only halfway through that special by Rose Wangoi, but already the reactions are fast and furious. Mike Adaka Mbarikiwa says something needs to be done as soon as possible before these snakes continue to cause more havoc in these communities. Where is the area leadership? Let these people be supplied with anti-venom and get trained on how to use it. Don't forget the hashtag is Baringo Venom. Have your say. We have another reaction here from Masi Mutuku, who says, I hope the Baringo County leadership is watching this. Why can't the local hospitals be supplied with anti-venom and people that can handle such cases? Why do leaders have to wait to add this as a post-election delivery item? We have another opinion here from the eternal optimist, who says the pain in the eyes of these patients, of these parents who grieve over their children. Can something be done about this? This menace is putting lives at stake. How can you not be safe at home? Again, the eternal optimist says 60 kilometers to find a hospital after a snake bite at their governors, senators, members of parliament. This is just painful, whereas people are shaming NTV. They consistently bring vital stories. Alex Mwango says this is such a sad state of affairs. Why do we have a county government there? Why are Kenyans suffering when the government was brought down to the people through devolution? His hashtag is "This is annoying." And another reaction here from Musyoki Kivindio, who is saying you take a snakebite victim to hospital and they ask you umekuja na nyoka. How now? Remember, have your say. The hashtag is Baringo Venom. We'll have more of that special by Rose Wangwe after this break.
Kerio Valley in Baringo North is home to some of the deadliest snakes in the world, which have for long claimed lives or left victims disabled. Many families in the area bear scars as testimony of the danger they live with daily. The high-risk regions are Kapkoiwo, Kagir, Baraketwa, Kapkomon, Rondinin, and Repeko. The area's rocky terrain and humid weather provide a conducive home for cobras, black mambas, puff adder, viper, and pythons.
Pythons are very common here in Baringo County, but this one is a bit friendly. And according to snake handlers, pythons are not poisonous, unlike the black mamba and the puff adder. When you're bitten by a black mamba, you need treatment in the next 15 minutes.
Nyoka imekuwa disaster. Sisi tunasikia watu wanasemanga wanatangaza njaa au vita nini ikuwe disaster. Nyoka hapa imekuwa national disaster kwa area boy. Ndio ile kitu watu wanafikiria kwa area hii waseme tuame area tuachie wanyama waishi huko. Juu imekuwa dangerous.
Jua inawaka hivi. Ndio sasa wanajaribu kutafuta mahali iko maji na mahali wanaweza lala baridi. Sasa ukiingia kitu kama mattress hapo inaweza lala hapo.
Na kutafuta maji natafuta mbili. Maji binadamu.
Kuna ile nyoka ile inapandanga mpaka hata kitanda. Sasa ile unalala usiku unashtukia naye ameingia kwa kitanda yako hapo. Amelala karibu na wewe hapo. Especially kuna hii nyoka nyingine inaitwa fafata. Hiyo sasa unasikia unaona yeye anakuja kabisa direct mpaka mnakuja lala na yeye. Lakini ukikusa ndio hapo sasa ndio naanza kutoa fujo. Cobra naye kuona mkiokutana namna hiyo, akiona maji yako anaanza kusimama hivi na kumwaga hiyo sumu yake. Na ukikimbia hata naye nakimbia narudi nyuma. Nawacha na wewe.
Kitembea kidogo unakutana. Kitembea kidogo ukiingia kwa hiyo mlima unakutana. Unakuta kama yako mita hapo kwa juu. Ikiona wewe na nyamaza huko. Ukipita kidogo ndio anataramukia. Sasa ya leo inakuwa mbaya sababu ukiona wewe na ngoja wewe kama panya. Hawezi kimbia kama ya zamani. Anangoja wewe alafu ukienda tu unafuata wewe. Kwanza watoto. Watoto ndio napukusa saiti, sijui anafikiria ni panya ama anafikiria ni nini.
Hapa tutembee bila tochi na unajua hatari iko. Unaomba Mungu unatoka, alafu unaangalia kuna nini hapa unapita. Wewe ukapita ovyo. Hata watoto wanajua. Wakienda mpaka kisa inaingia, kila mtu anakimbia aingie kwa nyumba.
About 10 years or 20 years ago, the snake bite cases were not as rampant as it is as of now. And this is because of the changes in settlement in human population. As people are expanding in settlement, they go into those areas that were previously inhabited, and then you find they are in contact with snakes. During such times, they must make sure that they clear water from the homesteads, and if need be, they can give some outside where they can access that, and also make a lot of cleanness in the house, because rodents are attracted by that, particularly the rats, and this is what the snakes follow.
Prevalence in Baringo County, right now we have about probably 200 to 300 people bitten per month. And probably, depending on the season, it can go as high as 500 people.
According to the Snakebite Rescue Rehabilitation and Research Center, Kenya, about 15 to 25 people lose their lives every day due to snake bites, while over 100 people are being amputated, causing them permanent disabilities. Records at the Kenyan Wildlife Service office in Baringo County shows the region has the highest cases of snake bites in Kenya, with 10 to 20 cases reported on a weekly basis. Between 2017 and 2018, for instance, 24 deaths and 58 snakebite injuries were reported in Baringo.
Lack of anti-venom, unequipped health facilities and poor infrastructure are some of the factors contributing to the high death rate of snakebites in this region.
Hapa ni area malaria, hapa ni area manyako kuuma watu. Ambulance hapa mpaka Partabo. Na Partabo sasa ni karibu almost 30 something kilometers pata ambulance. Kapartonjo ni hiyo kilomita 20. Paruwesa ni hiyo kilomita ngine tena. Sasa katika wotida kisarma tuna ambulance.
Kwake alafu nyumba yake yenye alikuwa anaishi ndio hii. This lowland ya Kerio Valley. Mtu akiumwa tuseme kama Paruwesa huko chini. Lazima ama Kenyachi. Lazima asafirishwe mpaka Kabarnet. Mahali anaweza pata dawa ya kutibu. Na hiyo distance ni zaidi ya 65 kilometers. Na hakuna magari. Mpaka ukodese gari ya mtu fulani upeleke naye mtu wako mpaka huko hospitali. Na mara mingi watu hukufia njiani kabla ya hawajafikishwa hospitali.
Daktari ni mmoja tu peke yake. Serving almost a whole location. So the county government wamerelax kwa kazi yao.
Lakini anakuja kama mara 2 ama 3. Hawezi kuja kila siku. Hasa kila Jumamosi, Chuma anakaa akipika saa 3 hivi saa 4 yeye ametoka.
Kitu kitokea tu weekend hakuna daktari.
A spot check by NTV crew revealed that majority of the dispensaries in Baringo North don't operate on weekends. From Kapkoiwa, Emosos to Kapluk, all dispensaries were indeed closed on Saturday and Sunday. In case of an emergency, patients have to travel to Kabratonjo or Kabarnet.
Na hospitali yuko hapa. Ameletwa tawa, lakini hiyo tawa haiwezi tumika sababu kuna daktari ile anajua kutibu hawa.
At Kapluk Dispensary, Anti-venom was stocked in 2018, but the nurse in charge of the facility, who did not want to appear on camera, said she does not have knowledge on how to administer the drug to a patient. The drug expiry date is on April 2019.
Mbona mgalete hiyo tawa kuja kufanya nini? Na kama mnajua hakuna hiyo daktari mwenye anajua, si wangelete daktari mwenye anajua kutumia hiyo dawa. Tuko na nurse moja. Na area hii dispensary ina site ya watu 3,000. Na inachukua sub-locations karibu 4.
Not all our nurses or not all our health workers are able to administer this particular drug. So we are addressing it by actually bringing in people specialists who can train these health workers. So we are addressing that currently right now. And that should be a problem that we will sort out very soon.
Another challenge is that some of the dispensaries don't have refrigerators to store anti-venom due to lack of electricity.
We upgrade ma dispensaries, iwe health centers, ili tupate yule naitwa clinical officer ambaye anaweza kutumikia wananchi kwa njia rahisi. Serikali sasa wanachukua madaktari wanaenda weka kwa headquarters huko tu. Huko madaktari na cha mingi. Awatoe kutoka huko, mtu akiambiwa aenda upande wa Kablu kama Kerio Valley huko, anasema kama ni hivyo afadhali mnipeleke upande wa Masop, yani the Avalanche. Wafanye kazi huko. Anasema wanaokopa upande wa chini pande huu kwa sababu ya vitu nyingi. Lakini mtu ameachiliwa kazi na lazima afanye kazi mahali popote katika Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Some of the residents in the area have taken to killing the snakes and taking them to hospitals to help doctors identify the venom and hence get the antidote faster.
Kama umeumwa na cobra, huwezi tumiwa ya black mamba. Hata kama ameuma mtu na hiyo nyoka ipotee, mpaka tutafute kabisa. Kwa sababu tukifika hospitali sasa, huwezi ukiambia ni nyoka aliniuma, sasa utaulizwa ni nyoka gani?
There are few snake bites that are treated with the monovalent antivenom, which the species of those snakes don't normally just come out in the open just like that. They are very reclusive animals.
Tuliletewa dawa kidogo na ikaisha kwa watu kwa sababu hiyo ni kama malaria kwetu.
In the last 3 to 4 months or so, we didn't have antivenom in all our facilities, but currently we have antivenom in most of our facilities, especially the snake bite prone areas. As a county, we had not put it among our top 10 essential list of medicine, and now it is among our essential drugs that we cannot do without.
Kuna plan ya kulete motorbike enye itakuwa na antivenom na daktari atakuwa anaendesha. We only wanted to see it rolling because it has taken long.
Strengthening our community health strategy so that we can be able to train a few community health volunteers to be able to administer first aid and probably even give the first dose of anti-venom.
In October 2017, a study published in the PLO's Neglected Tropical Diseases Journal revealed potentially disturbing deficiencies of snakebite treatment capability in East Africa.
All antivenoms we have in the country right now are made from venom harvested from snakes that are not found within Kenya. So this compounds the problems of the antivenom efficacy whenever we're managing our snakebite victims. The technology that produces the current antivenoms is quite old, 150 years old, and we think there's still much to be done for it to be better and to be more efficacious. Through our research, we've got to discover that most of our health workers are not trained in the management of snake bites. That compounds the problem and the outcomes from snake bites. This is a foreign particle being introduced into the body. There's normally risks of adverse reactions coming from it. So the more you administer as well, the more risks of adverse reactions you have. And we have had reports of clinicians reporting such cases. I'm losing patients not from the snake, but from the adverse reactions emanating from administering this snake antivenom.
A shortage of antivenom supply across the continent began less than 3 years ago after the production of one of the continent's most effective antivenoms was discontinued by its French manufacturers over low profit claims.
The antivenom was considered efficacious against most snakes of medical importance, even in Kenya. Most snakebite victims stopped coming to the hospitals because they will not find any antivenom. But the case fatality rate of snake bites increased from 2% to 12% and even higher. We started having 2-3 antivenoms that are registered, and they are one is of Mexican origin and one is of two others are of Indian origin.
It is estimated that 85% of snakebite victims opt for traditional healers in Baringo North. Esther Ewoi, a traditional healer in Kapkirok village, is the only ray of hope to many victims of snakebites in the remote area. Esther, who is popularly referred to as Dr. Nyoka, has perfected treatment of snake bites through application of a rare healing stone, popularly known as the black stone. The 57-year-old healer says she learned the science from her husband, who inherited it from his employer, Jonathan Liki, who had hired him as a snake handler near Lake Baringo.
Nyoka alikuwa hapa kwa mzee Liki. Ni sumu ya nyoka, yani ile alikamuliwa. Natoka meupe kama maziwa, lakini kuingia glasi kukauka, mara anakuwa kama chumvi. Sasa ndio anaenda kutengenezwa, anakuwa hivi. Anapelekwa England.
Esther passionately explains about her miracle healing black stone, which is saving lives.
Dawa kwa manyoka ile ya sumu yoyote, kutoka cobra, septum cobra, papada, black mamba. Kama ni nyoka anakuuma, damu anatoka. Sasa wewe ukileze, ninaona ni hapa, ninasafisha, alafu nichukue nisafishe na nipangusie akauke kama hapa, nimuweke hivi. Unaona anamrukia hivi. Sasa wakati anarukia ninawacha. Sasa wakati nikiwacha, yeye mwenyewe anatetemesha hivi. Na sababu anatetemesha hivi, mkono wangu haiko. Na ukileta ukisema ni nyoka na si ya sumu, atashika. Ananyonya hiyo sumu, wakati hapa sasa anaanza kumvura. Wakati anafura anaanguka. Sasa nikitoa namna hii ninakuonesha. Alafu sasa nitafinya hapa hivi, nimwage sumu. Nikimaliza kumwaga hiyo sasa nirudie niweke. anavuta tena, unaona tena anafura kidogo, yani sumu ya kwanza ndio amevuta mingi. Sasa anaanguka. Nitoe hiyo nimwage, nirudie niweke mara 3. Unasikia uchungu. Unasikia uchungu kama kobra hiyo. Utasikia uchungu saa mzima. Utaenda kukula turungi nikikutibu leo, kesho, alafu kesho kuta kunywa maziwa. Enda kwa hospitali umalize na dawa ya tetanus.
According to Esther, the stone can be used several times on different victims so long as it is sterilized in boiling water for at least 15 minutes before it is soaked in milk for 2 hours.
Nimekuwa na muda mwaka 60 nikitumia. Nimesaidia watu 18,017 yote wako hai. Ninaweza kukutisha shilingi 4,000. Haya ukimulia naweza 3.
Sasa hiyo ndio tunasema Mungu yetu ya pili. Tunatumia sasa mawe kadogo size.
Have you seen that black stone? Yeah, I've seen it. It has no basis at all in arresting any pathology arising from snake bite. Yeah, so at the end of the day, snake bite victims have to present to hospital. Otherwise, then we wouldn't be experiencing the deaths that we're experiencing right now from snake bites or the loss of limbs.
Snakebite incidents, which tend to affect the poorest and most vulnerable people in society, have been ignored for long. It is only recently that the condition began getting renewed attention. In 2017, the World Health Organization included it in its Category A list of neglected tropical diseases. The Institute of Primate Research has set up the Kenya Snakebite Research and Intervention Center, the first of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa, which will facilitate development of locally produced antivenoms that will be affordable and thus accessible to needy Kenyans.
Is to come up with what we are calling newer generation therapies on management of snake bites. The ideal would be to produce these antivenoms with the venom found from snakes within our region, and that will, of course, increase the efficacy and outcomes whenever these antivenoms are used in managing our patients. We have 5 to 10 years to work on this and come up with something that we think and feel will be much better than what we have now.
This is only the first step towards shining a brighter light on this neglected problem and attracting the much-needed resources to build a better system for saving lives. Snake bites leading to limb amputations and even death have dramatically gone up in the past decade. Section 25 of the Wildlife Management and Conservation Act 2013 stipulates that in case of death, 5 million shillings is paid to victims. Cases of injury resulting in permanent disability will be compensated 3 million shillings according to the Act. Depending on extent of injury, other injuries attract a minimum of 2 million shillings. Previously, compensation for deaths was 200,000 shillings, while a maximum of 50,000 shillings was given to injured persons. But affected families in Baringo County claim that they have not received any compensation for a period of 5 years.
Mimi nimejaza fomu yote. Wakaangalia mafomu wakaniambia iko sawa. Sasa waenda tutakukujia anytime. Hatujui ni lini. So mpaka hapo sasa mimi nikashughulia mambo yote mpaka ikanishinda.
Little Chepchirchir is also yet to receive compensation.
Tumepeana hiyo ripoti mpaka kwa kaita police kwa yule amekufa, tukaingia hiyo ofisi kubwa. Ofisi ya mkubwa kabisa kuona huyu mtoto. Akatuambia mimi sina namna sasa sababu tumepeana hii ripoti Nairobi. Tukakuja tu namna hiyo. Hatukupewa usaidizi yoyote. Mpaka siku hiyo sisi tukajinyamazia tu. Sasa tutaenda wapi?
Kaita police. Pili wanapata pesa kutoka kwa watalii, pesa yote wanapelekanga wapi? Last year, even last month, hata juzi nilitoka Nairobi. Nikaonelea sitafuata tena, nilikata kauli kusema sitafuata tena kwa sababu Mungu yuko. Ataona vile atakonfirmate mimi.
Hawaja compensate mtu kwa hii Baringo County since 2014. Nikamwambia kwa nini?
It is only that we start the process from at the ground level here and then forward them to the KWS headquarters where they are also consolidated and taken to the ministry.
KWS is always on the firing line, but really it shouldn't be KWS because it's beyond us in terms of, and it's not even our mandate to actually do compensation. So that is the ministry that processes the money which comes from Treasury, and that in turn is allocated by Parliament.
Compensation claims from victims of human-wildlife conflict in the last 5 years have hit to 15 billion shillings. This is according to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. The claims are for residents who have been killed or injured and those whose property has been destroyed by elephants and other animals. Compensation claims are filed through the county wildlife committees.
All those cases are processed and brought. And then there is just one more committee that they have to go through, which is the ministerial committee. If they find that they have money, but which can only cater for, say, 100 cases, and they have passed 300 cases, so it means it's only a third. And juggling as to where should you now put this 100 million instead of 300 million can be fairly a good challenge. But they probably would use other criterions, like saying maybe let's pay the ones that came earliest or something, just so that we make sure we are fair to all the counties. If somebody is bitten by a snake or injured by another animal, and then they go to hospital, they get treatment, there is no report, that becomes very complicated, and particularly because it's evidence trailed. They will try and find out, okay, you say you were bitten by a snake, where? And then they will say, oh, it was at this finger, and maybe by that time that sign is not there. So that would be a big challenge, even to that committee, and it could comprise some of the cases where they say, no, we are not taking this to be a genuine case, and probably the person was genuinely bitten.
In 2017, snakebite victims required 1.5 billion shillings compensation, while the Wildlife Ministry had only budgeted for 250 million shillings. 62% of claims received between 2014 and 2016 arose from snakebites, according to KWS. 274 cases were approved, with each taking 5 million shillings.
We've only been able to deal with the issue of human life. That is what the ministry now prioritized, and they said, look, I think the communities have been much more hit in this area, and therefore the money that we have received, we're going to prioritize and pay human death cases first. As we wait for the money, as we debate, as we ask support from all, including our parliament, to be able to give this money.
Taxpayers will not compensate individuals hurt or killed from snakebites if a proposed law is approved by Parliament. The Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife is lobbying Parliament to amend the Act to remove claims for snakebites and destruction of crops in order to sustain the huge bill.
Clearly, we can see that the amount of money that is required, if we go the full range of all the categories, we may not be able to sustain that kind of situation.
Efforts to get a comment from the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife were unsuccessful. Shortage of anti-venom, a lack of awareness among health workers, poor access to health services are major factors increasing morbidity and mortality from snakebites. Thus, until those challenges get solved, the nightmare of snakebites may continue to haunt many in this region.
Rose Wangoi, as always, bringing us those untold stories. Now, let's take a look at more reactions that have come in to, as regards that particular special by Rose Wangoi. Kelvin Masharia says the fact that one has to travel all those kilometers to get basic services such as health saddens me. To make it worse, there are no vehicles, only motorbikes, and the government and county leadership should do something. Erastus Angienda says a whole Ministry of Health wait for Baringo venom to realize most staff cannot administer anti-venom. The traditional healer is more reliable than our health facilities. Prudence Bushnell III says, I mean, why wouldn't they resort to a traditional healer when the hospital available has anti-venom that does not work, or practitioners who do not know how to use them? It is a shame. Dawn says, so disturbing. Took me back to 2012 when I lost my immediate kin to a snake bite. The problem solver says, that story is so heartbreaking, I cannot control my tears. We cannot be talking about universal healthcare when we are still losing lives to snake bites. Something should be done, and urgently. Masi Mutuku says, I always get lost in deep thought when people talk of poor road networks, poverty, etc. in Baringo. These are the same citizens who will claim to condemn serikali. We as Kenyans need to rethink our priorities. Odwor Otieno says the failure of our health system is evident in the Baringo venom feature by Rose Wangoi. The lack of prioritization simply shows how political and technical the leadership is at the Ministry of Health, and yet every Kenyan has a right to healthcare that saves lives. And finally, for now, Setane says a Chinese national was recently awarded 25 million after being killed by a hippo. Now these Baringo venom victims must be compensated. Baringo County government to be held responsible where deaths occurred due to a lack of drugs in the hospitals. We'll be sampling more of your thoughts after this break.
Edition with Olive Burrows.
Thank you for staying with NTV Weekend Edition. Deputy President William Ruto has asked government officials in counties to move with speed and constitute the committees to check on government projects as ordered by the president. Speaking in Nyandarua County, DP Ruto said the government was keen on delivering its promises to Kenyans, and it was the duty of its officials to make sure these promises are delivered.
Alitoa mwongozo Executive Order number 1 ya 2019. Ile miradi yote ya serikali kama soko hii, mambo ya maji, mambo ya hospitali, mambo ya barabara, sisi tunataka kuhakikisha ya kwamba tuko na up-to-date, accurate, real-time information on the implementation of all these projects. Kwa hivyo, Bwana County Commissioner, you now have the instructions kuwa na kamati hapa katika county ambayo itahakikisha ya kwamba tuko na information ya zile miradi zote ambazo zinaendelea, kama kuna yenye imekwama na ni kwa sababu gani, ndio tuhakikisha ya kwamba mpango wa serikali ya Jubilee inatimia. Therefore, all officers here in the county must work under that committee so that we can harmonize all government programs and ensure that we have a proper reporting system, a proper supervision mechanism to ensure that these projects are implemented and are successful.
Some political leaders from the Rift Valley have warned those keen on driving a wedge between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, arguing that it is mission impossible. The leaders insist the relationship between the president and his deputy has been strengthened.
Nimeona siasa malumbano na story mingi, pengine naibu rais sijui apendwi, sijui rais hajafanya nini, sijui mawaziri hawataki kufanya nini. I think my message to Kenya, and I want to assure, kama mtu mwenye nimetumwa hapa na rais na naibu wa rais, niwaambie kwamba the government is united and focused on delivering for the people of Kenya. And it is one indivisible, cohesive, hard-working government that is being led by only one president that wants to change this country.
Ningependa viongozi, tafadhali tuwache siasa kwa sasa. Tuwache siasa. Tufanye yale inayotuchenga kama viongozi na wananchi.
The president and deputy president are like conjoined twins according to the constitution of this land.
An interesting turn of phrase there, conjoined twins. I now hand you over to Ida Waringa for the sports news after this.
My name is Ida Warenga. Now, Kenyan Premier League champions Gor Mahia started their CAF Confederation Cup group stage off with a resounding performance in a 4-2 win against Egyptian league leaders Zamalek SC. And while the win was welcome relief for the team and fans alike, it was more than special for recent Kogalo recruit Dennis the Menace Oliech. Let's find out why. Kenyan champions Gor Mahia rallied from behind in a show of character in an entertaining CAF Confederation Cup opening group match against Egyptian giants Zamalek SC. Ibrahim Hassan stunned Kogalo in the 7th minute with the opener after Gor goalkeeper Boniface Olwoch conceded a corner kick. After a host of blown chances, Jacques Tuisenge equalized for the Green Army in the 25th after being deftly set up by Francis Kahata. The Rwandese import would then double his tally 15 minutes later with a header into the net after a cross from Boniface Omondi to put Gor Mahia 2-1 up. But Zamalek's Ibrahim Hassan would continue to be a thorn in Gor's side when he equalized for the Egyptians with a minute to half-time. Many fans of the opinion that Gor goalkeeper Olwoch could have done better to handle the attempt. 2-2 at the end of a thrilling first half that saw the White Knights take the lead before losing it to a spirited Kogalo and then reclaiming a stalemate before the break. Lots of questions, though, to be asked about the custodian between the posts. Kogalo regained the lead 6 minutes after the break through Nicolas Kipkirui's powerful header. The much-anticipated moment came in the 66th minute when Dennis the Menace Oliech came in for Kipkirui, who got injured after finding the net. History then repeated itself as Dennis Oliech scored 21 years after his late brother Steve Okumu scored for Gor Mahia against Zamalek in a replica of the fixture, sending the crowd wild.
Confidence is there, and big teams, strong teams, they're always ready to next game. This game is finished for us. Finished. We have to move on.
Of course, we made mistakes, but we are losing as a team, as we are winning as a team, and I'm not going to play anybody.
The victory was partial sweet revenge for Gor Mahia, who lost 4-0 to the White Knights the last time they faced each other in Cairo in 1998. It will be all to play for in Cairo in the second leg on 10th of March. Next up, though, in the CAF Confederation Cup will be a home match against Petro Atletico on 13th February. I will tell you this, that was a fun game to watch. Let's move on to the Kenyan Premier League, and Bandari FC returned to second place on the Kenyan Premier League standings after thrashing AFC Leopards 4-1 at the Mbaraki Stadium in Mombasa to close the gap on leaders Mathare United to 3 points with a game in hand. Wycliffe Ochomo and Yemi Mwana each scored a brace, with Vincent Oburu netting Leopards consolation. In other results of the day, Sport Pesa Cup winners Kariobangi Sharks suffered their first defeat of the season, going down 2-0 to Sofapaka at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. Cliff Kasuti and Omar Kasumba scored Batoto Bamungu's goals that took them to 17 points. Nzoia Sugar beat Sony Sugar 3-2 at the Sudi Stadium. Zoo FC drew 2-2 with KCB at Kericho Green, while Kakamega Homeboys and Vihiga United played out to a 1-1 draw at the Buhungu Stadium. Talanta FC broke National Super League leaders Ushuru FC's 11-match unbeaten run with a 2-1 win at the Camp Toyoyo grounds. Brian Yahama gave the Taxmen the lead in the 47th minute before Rogers Omondi pulled one back for Talanta. Emmanuel Mogaka ensured they bagged the 3 points as he stroked the winner in the 49th minute. In other results of the day, second place Wazito FC registered their first draw of the season, a 1-1 scoreline against Kenya Police, while Thika United beat Kangemi All-Stars 2-1 at the Camp Toyoyo grounds.
Haya. Chezo ile.
nafasi, piga! Tamu wanapata vijana wa timu ya Talanta.
Abdalla Juma kafurahi sana.
Anaharibika.
Well, not too good of a day for Kenya in rugby as the Kenya Sevens' dismal performance continued when they collected a point from the Sydney leg of the World Rugby 7 Series, having not registered a single win in the leg in Australia. Kenya was knocked out by invitational side Tonga, going down 2017 in the 13th place semi-final. Kenya had previously dropped to 13th place a semi-final after losing 19-14 to Wales in the Challenge Trophy quarter. The defeat, Kenya's lowest of the season, by a whole 9.5 lengths to win the 2019 Britain-Kenya Guinness race over 1,600 meters at the Ngong Racecourse. Ridden by local leading jockey James Muhindi, Silverstone Heir, who has now won 5 straight races, stayed in the middle of the field for the better part of the race to eventually win then in a fast time of 1 minute 37.7 seconds, just a few seconds out of the record set by Kanami back in March 2007. Finishing 4.5 lengths further behind in third place was First Five with Leslie Sekombe. GoPro with Zimbabwean jockey Brendan McNaughton was fourth.
Sports is part of Britain's DNA. We enjoy supporting sports because it's not just sports per se, it's more about promoting sports, encouraging the youth. And this particular event is extremely important because if you look at the jockeys, they are your everyday guys out there. So we are very happy to provide employment to these young people who love their jobs.
To some international football now, and Sergio Aguero scored a hat-trick as Manchester City cut Liverpool's lead at the top of the Premier League to 2 points with a vital 3-1 win over Arsenal. Laurent Koscielny marked his return from injury with a headed equaliser. Leaders Liverpool will restore a 5-point... TV Weekend Edition. We appreciate your thoughts and your feedback on Baringo Venom. That was the hashtag tonight that is now trending. And we appreciate Rose Wangoi and Dixon Onyango for doing an amazing job and telling an incredible story that just had to be told. My name is Olive Burrows. Our sign language interpreter has been David Agondoa. Have a good night.